Hello, everyone, and welcome to our water utility business plan training. I'm Eric Toledo, and I'm the New Hampshire State Manager for RCAP Solutions, and I will be leading this training today. We have two learning objectives for today's training. The first one is to support water small systems to achieve long-term financial and managerial sustainability. And the second one is to help small water utilities to fill out the template built by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, or New Hampshire DES. By the end of the training, we hope that you're going to be able to accomplish these two objectives. You can get a copy of the New Hampshire business plan by downloading from the New Hampshire website or by contacting them the address, phone number, and email indicated in these slides. For more information on financial management, we will be providing some resources at the end of this training. First, a word about the producer. The training was produced in 2025 by RCAP Solutions, which is a nonprofit organization that provides technical support and assistance to water, wastewater, and stormwater utilities across rural communities in New Hampshire. RCAP Solutions serves small rural communities not only in New Hampshire, but in 9 states shown in this slide, and the U.S. territories, including Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. For today's agenda, during this video training, we will be covering the following topics: water business plan, what is a business plan and its benefits. We're going to have a review of the business plan template created by New Hampshire DES, instructions on how to fill the template. We will provide additional resources that can help you, water utility, and also some final thoughts. Let's start with the basic. Why do you need a business plan? A business plan is an economic activity that where goods and services are exchanged for money. Every business needs an investment in a consistent customer base to be profitable. A business plan could be properly owned, non-for-profit, or state-owned. Your water utility very likely fits into these descriptions, making it a business plan, the business operation for the following reasons. You collect revenue from your customers. This is the first reason. You have expenses to pay. You provide the products or services to your customers, in this case is water, and you have an agreement with your customers to pay for those services that you provide. And finally, you comply with the state and federal requirements. For projects funded by the New Hampshire State Revolving Fund and the Drinking Water Groundwater Trust Fund, a business plan is required before fund is disbursed and construction begins. Completing this business demonstrates that you have the technical, managerial, and financial capacity to receive financial assistance. What are the benefits of having a business plan? By creating a business plan, your utility can make a determination of the full cost of providing water services. This knowledge allows you providing water services to set the rate structure, the appropriate rate structure to cover all the expenses, including the operation and maintenance expenses cost, the debt service and loan payments, planning for future needs such as capital improvement projects. It can help you to stay in compliance, improve your system functionality and reliability, establish predictable rates. It is also a convenient summary for your operator to educate owners about the water conditions and upcoming costs, and can help you to lower your cost expenditures. There are multiple benefits, but also some challenges. The most significant challenges for your water systems are the following. The first one is completing the asset inventories and the asset assessment conditions. A lot of systems struggle with that. The second one is defining your funding strategies, decided where the funding can account in order to pay for your improvements. And finally is creating a realistic budget. All these activities are time consuming and require input from multiple sources. The New Hampshire business plan template is a simplified asset management plan designed to help you to provide safe, reliable water to your customers. The spreadsheet-based document is organized into the following tabs: the instruction tabs, the cover tabs, the technical and managerial summary tabs, the inventory tabs, funding strategy, expenses, revenues, and finally the debt summary tab. The different colors of those tabs, which are indicating at the bottom of this slide, show you who should provide you the information to fill that tab. Red tabs, for instance, are for your utility owner to complete, such as the business cover, the business strategies. The blue tabs requires data from your system operators, a technical assistant providers, or the engineering firms that build your water systems. For instance, the asset inventory tab is a blue tab. Light brown tabs contains financial information and should be filled out by your treasurer or your accountant, and that include the expenses and the revenue tabs. About the instruction tabs. To effectively complete your business plan, we recommend carefully reading this tab. It provides important recommendations and a step-by-step guidance on how and where to enter your data. Remember that the business plan is a living document and should be reviewed frequently to account for changes in your asset inventory, budget projections, and funding strategies. And this is how the cover of the business plan looks like. The cover of your business plan requires several key pieces of information. Most important one, the name and identification number of your public water utility and the completion date. Also, the names of the people and organization who helped you to fill out the template, as it's indicated in this slide. And finally, the plan status, which could be preliminary, final, or approved for funding. In this case, we are checking the preliminary checkbox. You can submit your business plan directly, or you can direct any question that you might have to the address at the bottom of this page. This is how the technical and managerial summaries of the business plan looks like. This is divided in 3 sections, and we're going to review each one of them. The top section of the spreadsheet requires you to provide key information about your system, your water systems, including the water system details. First, you must provide the number of current services connections and future connections, which might include residential unit, commercial units, and other type of units. For instance, we are assuming 120 existing connections, and we're expecting to add 2 additional connections soon. Next, enter the total population currently served by your system, for instance, 300, and we are anticipating we will be serving 305 people in the future. The next piece is the water demand. You also need to provide the system's average and maximum daily water demands. This data is crucial for ensuring your system can handle peak and seasonal needs and can be obtained from your operator or the engineer who designed the system. Here, we include the water daily demand and maximum demand data for the system. And finally, your sources of water. Include data on your water source, such as your wells, the water yields in gallons per minute, and the year the flow rate was measured. If you have multiple wells, include information for each. In this case, we include information of 2 wells that supply the water system. There is also some space at the bottom that where you can provide some information if you provide irrigation services to your customers. The middle section, in this section, you will need to specify the type of system you operate by checking the relevant box or boxes. Choices are residential, commercial, school, daycares, industrial, or others. Most water systems are intended for residential use only, so we're going to check that box. You will also need to select the type of ownership, such as a public, nonprofit cooperative, water association, for-profit or private. For example, we indicating in this form that the system is managed by a water association. And finally, there is some space to provide any additional information about your system. Now let's move to the bottom of the screen. In this section, you are required to provide information about your governing body. You will need to provide the name of the governing body, which is indicated here. Indicate whether your utility is a business entity and it has bylaws or organizational rules. It specifies if your members are elected or appointed, and include the names and contact information of each of your members. So we have 3 examples in this form. Now let's move to the inventory tab. The asset inventory is the foundations of your business plan. It is often the most time-consuming section to complete, and is required as it requires input from various sources, such as your primary water operator or the engineer who designed the system. The length of the inventory lists will depend on the size and complexity of the system. This spreadsheet-based inventory uses numbers of lines and columns to describe your water utility various components. You are only required to fill out the columns with the red headers indicated here, and the data for columns with black headers will be calculated automatically for you. To help to explain this section, we will use an example and breakdown for easy review and completion. And here's the example. The first asset in this list, it is the 6,200 gallon hydropneumatic tank installed in 2000. If you don't know the exact year, you can provide an estimate of the installation date of the installation year. You should also include an estimated replacement cost, which in this case is $35,000. Notes at the bottom of this page can help you with those figures. The conditioned score column selects from the drop-down menu, which provide you with the following options: excellent, good, fair, poor, or deficient. For each of the description, there's a reference at the bottom of this spreadsheet. Here we selected poor. The typical useful life of 25 years, with an estimated remaining useful life of 5 years, as the tank was installed 20 years ago. You will be able to estimate the probability of failure and the impact of failure. Both are rated on a scale from 1 to 5. On those numbers values are added, the spreadsheet automatically creates the criticality score for you. For example, the probability of failure of 4 and the impact of failure for result in a criticality of 16. We recommend that you request input from your operator, engineer, or technical assistant providers to estimate these numbers. And finally, the estimated annual allocation is automatically calculated by dividing the asset estimated cost. For the first item is $35,000 by the remaining useful lives of 5 years, resulting on 7,000. This is the amount that you must set aside annually for the asset replacement. You can follow this process with all the utility assets. While the template provides you space for about 20 assets, you can add more lines as needed. However, focus on including your most important and expensive assets, such as wells, pumps, houses, water tanks, service lines, and distribution mains. This is how the funding strategy tab looks like. However, before we fill out this spreadsheet, you must make a determination on how you will pay for your asset. Will the cost be covered by charging your customers, taking out a loan, or requesting a grant? If you plan to charge your customers, you must know how much they can afford to pay, not how much they are willing to pay, as they often are accustomed to pay too little for the services. The next one is loans. If you are taking a loan, you must assess how much your system can afford to repay it. And finally, if you are considering applying for a grant, keep in mind that you might need to allocate some resources to complete your grant application. Now let's go back to the funding strategy. The numbers at the top of this page are automatically populated from the expense tab, which we're going to review in the next slide, so you don't have to worry about that for now. The most important part of this spreadsheet is in the middle of the page. The asset included in this first 3 lines are the 3 highest critical assets for your inventory tab, which include the hydronomic tank, the distribution mains, and the core stops and service lines. In the 4 columns, we are assuming that you have enough funding in your reserves to cover 1,000 for the tank and 5,000 for the distribution mains. We're also assuming that the remaining costs will be covered by taking a loan in 2025. Please keep in mind that the costs of the loan should be reflected in your rates. In this example, we are estimating that you will adjust your rates in 2025 to be able to meet your loan obligations. You can also add comments at the bottom of this page for each of the items listed in the table. The negative 26,858 included at the bottom of this table is automatically estimated by the number from the funds invested to replace the 3 assets listed, minus the amount that you are borrowing to pay for the replacement of this asset. Many systems have trouble trying to fill this section of the business plan, so we advise you looking for a system from your bookkeeper, your accounting firm, or a technical assistance provider. This is an example, or this is how the expense tab looks like. This table is formatted like a typical budget where you will report your operation and maintenance expenses at the top of the spreadsheet and the administrative expenses in the middle sections. Unlike many systems that combine water expenses with other costs, such as sewer and mower, this example focuses on expenses related with water systems only. The 5 columns format of this tab is designed to help you to organize your budget. The second column is the one which lists the description of your expenses. For instance, you will list operation and maintenance expenses such as the $15,000 for repairs and maintenance, or the general administrative expenses of $4,200 for bookkeeping. Ideally, the expenses are listed from the higher to the lowest. The third column, which has the red headers, is where you enter the amounts of your expenses from the most recent complete financial year, also known as actual expenses. For instance, the total operation and maintenance expenses were $23,000, for this year, for last year. And the administrative expenses were 17,200, which give you a total of 41,000 with your operational budget. The next column is for your budget projections. In this example, we predicted the operation and maintenance expenses for the next years are substantially lowered, dropping from the 23,800 to 11,800. This is due to the planned water distribution system upgrades, which is expected to reduce costly repair expenses. Conversely, the main general and administrative expenses are higher than the previous year because the system established several reserves accounts, 100 for the emergency reserves, 100 for operation and maintenance reserves, 1,000 for capital improvement reserves, and 1,000 for debt reserves. Let's talk a little bit about reserves before we move on. To improve the chances of financial success, you will need to build your reserves. Here are the most common type of reserve that you should consider when developing your budget. The first one is the emergency reserve funds for unforeseen or unplanned repairs that could occur during the year, such as a major break or a pump breakdown. The next one is the operation and maintenance reserves, which are the funds that you set aside to handle seasonal fluctuations. It should cover at least 2 or 3 months of your operational expenditure. The next one are the capital improvement reserves, which is the accumulated funds dedicated to covering the portion of the costs of large asset and future capital improvement projects. The debt reserve is the last one, is the money that you set aside to pay down to a lending agency. It is often required by the lending in a loan agreement and is in addition to the principal and interest rate. The data for this section can be sourced from your governing body, your treasury, your bookkeeper, or the management contract if you outsource your billing and accounting practices. Finally, remember that reserves are expenses and must be included in your budget calculations. Let's take a look at the expense tab again. Once you have your actual and future expenses entered, you can make a meaningful comparison between the last year's costs and the next year's projections. The small box table at the bottom of this spreadsheet will automatically calculate it for you. According to this example, the annual cost of providing services to your customers was $341.67 last year, and is expected to be $269.26 next year, which is a drop of 21% of the cost of the service. And this is the revenue tab. This is how it looks like. Most small utilities have only one or a few sources of revenue, from which water fees is likely being the most important one. The user charges figures in this tab are automatically populated from the expenses tab showing the 41,000 for last year and the expected 32,850 for the next years. Sometimes systems might have additional revenue sources such as fees for lake connections, disconnections, or bulk water sales and stuff like that. Any additional revenue should be included in the top of the table, which include a meaningful comparison between the last 2 years' records and the next year's projections. The table at the bottom applies only for systems that use meters. If your system does not have use meters or don't use meters, you don't need this form, this part of the form. This table provides a simple calculation of the fees charged to all customers. The data for this section should be provided by your governing body, the treasurer, bookkeeper, or the management contractor if you outsource your billing and accounting. And this is the final tab, the debt summary tab. This is how it looks like. This section is particularly important for systems that have debt obligations. It is fundamental for you to have a good understanding of how a loan or loans are set up. And this is what we explained in this slide. The utility account of these items are two, a loan and a grant. A loan first is a 30 years, 500,000 loan was taken from the New Hampshire State Revolving Fund in September 2019 at a 1.7 interest rate. The current balance is 400,000 for that loan. There's also a grant. The second item is a 450,000 grant from the New Hampshire Groundwater Trust Fund. The data for this section should be provided by from your governing body, your treasurer or bookkeeper, or your management contractor if you outsource your services for billing and accounting. Some systems need to review some additional resources, and we included some of them here for your review. The first one is the Basic Financial Management for Small Community Utilities, a publication from Markup Solution. This publication provides guidance to help your utility, reach financial sustainability. The second publication is called How to Formulate Great Rates. It's another production for Markup Solution, and it's a guidebook for water systems that have the authority to set their own rates. And finally, there's a simple tools for effective performance or steps, a US EPA publication. This guide is designed to help decision makers, operators, and managers of small community water systems understand the full cost of providing drinking water services to their customers. And final thoughts. Why you need a business plan? We discussed about that in the beginning, but let's, revisit the topic again. So a business plan is an essential tool for any utility. By developing and implementing a plan, regardless of you use this template, the New Hampshire DES template or not, you can't prevent and reduce penalties and contingencies, minimize the risk of unbalanced budget, avoid service disruptions, reduce customers' complaints. The second thought is about planning. Why planning? Planning is one of the most effective ways of achieving long-term financial sustainability. When creating your financial plan, consider the following key factors. Look for trends. Analyze the historical records of emergencies and repair expenses. Account for inflation. Factor inflation into your future expenses projections. Make an evaluation of the investment. See how the cost of the investment can lower your repair costs over time. And think long-term. Always consider the big pictures and plan for future expenses. And finally, communication. Why communication? Simply crushing the numbers isn't enough. You must also communicate them to your customers. They need to know about that. If residents don't understand or don't attend the meetings, send them information directly. You can mail out ballots or announcements about upcoming meetings to discuss new fees. To help to explain the details, you can invite experts to your meetings, such as an engineer firms to explain what needs to be done and how much it will cost. New Hampshire DES to discuss about funding opportunities from the federal government or the state. Your management company can help you to explain a little bit about how the budget works. Or RCAP Solutions, we're here to help you to review your rates. We can help you to do mapping, leak detection, assist to the preparation and submission of the funding applications, and some other services. So thank you very much. RCAP Solution will be more than happy to provide you some help and provide you hard copies and electronic copies of any of the publications described in this training, and help you to fill the business plan if that's what you needed. Thank you very much for attending this training.